Hello everybody, thank you for being here tonight. We are on week number 5 of our IN.Form transformation journey. Tonight we get to talk about how gut health equals heart health. When our gut is healthy, believe it or not, our heart is healthy as well from several different factors, and we're going to be discussing that tonight. We're also going to be discussing the myth of fat and how we kind of live in a fat freaked out society, and we want to make sure our perceptions of fat are correct and that we're utilizing fat to the best benefit of ourselves and understanding how that works. So that'll be part of tonight's presentation. Last week, of course, we talked about protein and how important protein is for the body. Can any of you tell me one of the reasons why we need protein? What protein does? Just one thing protein helps us with in our day.
Build muscle.
Build muscle mass, yes? Got anything, Susie?
Just thinking it helps you fight disease.
Yes, it helps you fight with disease, illnesses, helps you recover from those things. Also helps us with memory, focus, it helps us with energy levels, helps us to balance our blood sugars, helps us with balancing our hormones, it helps us with so many things. So I hope everybody had a chance this last week to take that protein message to heart and realize how important it is to have the protein. The other thing that we talked about is how protein is broken down into little chains called, anybody remember what those little chain links are called? Close. Amino acids. So those amino acids are all very important to us because all those different amino acids, which there's 22 of them to count as of today, all help with all the different body processes. So it's important that we get varied forms of protein so that way we can get the varied amounts of different amino acids to help us with our body functions. L-arginine is one of those, and we're going to talk about L-arginine tonight in relationship to the heart, so that'll kind of tie in with what we were talking about. Does anybody want to share what your SMART goal was for last week by any chance? Anybody have a SMART goal that they went to try to accomplish from protein module number 4?
Well, I went right back and bought a steak and cottage cheese. Because I don't do my protein.
Wonderful. So you went out and you purchased protein so you
I
could
bought
have it
3
around.
steaks and cottage cheese.
Good.
And buy.
Good, because we should be having 3 protein meals a day and 2 protein snacks a day. So that's wonderful you did that. Susie, did you have anything to share?
Well, I was sick, so I didn't really have to be starting over on Sunday.
Okay, no problem. Well, so tonight, as I said, we're going to talk about heart health equals gut health. But before we do that, I do want to mention that, of course, in the last 2 weeks, we've been doing our measurements for people. Most everybody had a 4-week time period, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Out of 12 people that we've been able to measure, we have lost a total of 35 1/4 inches. 35 1/4 inches, which basically equates out to just under 3 inches per person lost in a 4-week time period on this program. So I'm very, very excited for the people that did that, that were a part of that, were able to lose inches. But we had people losing 5 inches and 3 inches and 2 inches, and we had all sorts of different numbers coming in. But I'm very excited about the progress we've already had in the 4 weeks. And then, of course, I do want to mention as well, when I talk to you about not being concerned about weight, we're concerned more about those inches. So if you were one of those people that lost quite a few inches, but yet your weight didn't change, that's a really good thing. That means you're losing the right kind of weight. We don't want to be losing muscle mass. We want to be losing body fat. And therefore, sometimes, as we learned last week, muscle weighs more than fat does, but it's a lot smaller. And so by losing inches, that means we have less of this and more of this. And that's what we're shooting for. All right. So this week, I want to start off with a quote that I think is really important and pertains to what we're talking about tonight, which is the cardiovascular system. Believing there is a balanced solution to cardio wellness that does not include eating changes is believing a lie. Literally, you cannot expect to have an issue with your cardiovascular system and think that all can go away without addressing nutrition. Nutrition is one of the biggest things that affect our cardiovascular system. And with the cardiovascular fatalities being the #1 killer of men in our country, we really need to take a look at what we're eating. For women in their menopausal years and after are actually now on the #1 list for cardiovascular disease for fatalities. So cardiovascular disease is killing us a lot faster than a lot of other things that are going on out there. And it really has a lot to do with nutrition. I had a lot of people that I would work with back in the day when I had the store downtown Austin. They would come in and they would say, oh, you know, I've got these aches and I've got these pains, and oh, you know, I just got diagnosed with high blood pressure, or my cholesterol levels are high. And I would talk to them about their nutrition. And they would look at me and they would say, but I've been eating the same thing for the last 20 years. And I'd be like, okay, you know, well, we're going to talk a little more about that tonight, but that's the whole idea, is we just don't realize the impact that nutrition has on us on a daily basis. Like I said, I've got a little quote for that in a little while that we'll be looking at. So as we move on, we're going to go ahead and go to page number 40 of our IN.Form participant manual. And we're going to talk about how we can repair our heart health. Page number 40 talks about the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is proving that science is showing that foods rich in fiber, fermented vegetables, prebiotic foods, all of these things will reduce blood pressure, heart rate, and cholesterol. They can also induce weight loss and decrease toxin-producing bacteria. On the other hand, a diet that's high in animal fats and protein has been shown to limit the diversity of our gut bacteria, which can wreak havoc on our cardiovascular system. Now, if you remember last week, we talked a little bit about the fact that we have thousands, if not more, different types of good microbiome in our gut. Tons of different healthy, and there are different strands of this good microbiome in our gut. But we need a diversity of those to help us with all sorts of things. And so we need to be sure we're getting in our plant proteins, because this in itself will provide more diverse gut bacteria, food, and microbes as well. And so it's very important that we think about this as we move forward. The nutrients from plant-based combined with pre and probiotics can help make your gut's ecosystem whole. So as we eat the 6 vegetables a day, as we get in the 5 ounces of greens a day, as we work with the probiotic in our IN.Form kit, as we work with our pea protein shake, which is a plant-based protein, all of these things are going to help create that diversity and help make that gut ecosystem as wholesome as possible and balanced. The history of our hearts. In the early 1950s, food went directly from farm to table. We didn't get in our car and drive to the grocery store. We went out to the field, went out to our gardens, went to our neighbors, maybe even went to the market. But most of the time we walked, or we used our physical bodies to retrieve our food, and then we took it straight to the house. It wasn't shipped thousands of miles across the country. It wasn't irrigated with irrigation that actually made the food last longer and look prettier as it traveled from one end of the country to the other. Food went fresh from your garden to your table, and therefore the nutrient density was way higher. And then we didn't have the exposure to pesticides, herbicides, and all the other things that are in the air as we do today. The other thing that happened in the 1950s is we started to get into a food shortage. The question started to arise, how are we going to feed the world over the next 50 years, over the next 100 years? How is this going to happen, especially with the world population growing as it was? So one of the things that they did is they started to figure out a way to create foods that would last longer and be more shelf stable. We can can them, we can freeze them, we can keep them in a bag in our cupboard for 3 weeks and it won't rot or deteriorate. And so when that happened, we found a lot of industrialized farms popping up where they started to use chemicals that would actually make this food last longer when it went from point A to point B. I just mentioned irradiated foods alone. Irradiated foods are foods that are literally put radiation, we just talked about this earlier, we put radiation into those foods so that way the orange can stay orange as it travels across the country. So that supposedly vine-ripened tomato stays nice and waxy and red as it travels. And when you do those kinds of things to your fruits and your vegetables, it deteriorates their nutrient value. We lose nutrients, we kill enzymes, we kill all sorts of things. So the value of the food that we're getting in now versus the food we were getting in the early 1900s when it went farm to table, the value is way different. In fact, when I first got into this business in the 1990s and I started investigating food, because that's where I started at, was with nutrition, I started learning that our FDA guidelines for like how much vitamin C an orange had, how much vitamin A like a butternut squash had. All of those numbers were based on the 1950s, before we started to get into this huge revolution with industrialized foods and from corporate farms. So now when we think we eat an orange and we're getting X amount of vitamin C, we're literally not, because those values have not shifted. And on top of that, with the soil depletion that's been going on, with us not balancing our ecosystem with our growing of the plants, with us not doing things right, when we're using pesticides and herbicides, we are actually pulling down the nutrient values. So point being, we're eating way different now than we were 80 years ago. And it's really important for us to understand. Another thing manufacturers had to do is they had to literally remove nutrients from foods to keep them shelf stable. If you kept enzymes in an apple that you were going to put in a can, then it would deteriorate in the can. So you have to remove those enzymes so you can can it and it can last longer. Because enzymes break down food. If you kill the enzymes, then you don't have that action of that food being broken down. In fact, when you purchase an apple or anything that's soft, tender in nature like that, and you drop it on the ground and you see that it bruises within an hour or two, that's enzymes. That's all that it is. It's not rotten, it's not bad. It's just the enzymes going to work. You dropped them, you activated those enzymes, and now they're actually literally starting to break down the flesh of the apple. Because the creator made sure that if you ate a food, you had the proper enzymes in that food to break down that food properly. But of course, when we heat enzymes, we destroy them. But even with the wheat kernel, we're separating the wheat germ goes here, the gluten part goes there, everything has a different place where it goes. All of this helps to create a more shelf-stable product. So we're removing nutrients like omega-3 fatty acids, enzymes, vitamins, minerals, and then we're replacing them with cheap ingredients that don't allow them to spoil, such as preservatives. On top of all of this, baby boomers were taught that they needed to eat everything on their plate. There's this big food shortage going on, right? And you needed to eat all that food on your plate. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you're going to be just like these people over in this third world country that are starving. So you better eat all your food, because you better be thankful that you're not these people, right? So then our psychology messes with us, where we literally think we have to eat everything on our plate. And as we'll talk about a little bit more, but we've already mentioned, our plates have gotten bigger. Our portions have gotten bigger. So now we're eating shelf-stable foods, void of the nutrients, bigger portions, and not getting what our body really needs. Literally, it puts a lot of people who are literally starving to death, even though they may not look like it. They're not getting the value nutrients they need to get. So with the food portions growing, we're continuing to finishing everything we've been served while ignoring what our bodies actually need. Overeating the wrong kinds of food can be disastrous for our heart health. But eating plant-based, organic, or free-range, or sustainably grown, clean foods in more appropriate portions, we can experience dramatic improvements in our metabolic age and our cardiovascular system both. All right, so let's go ahead and go to page number 41 on cholesterol. So we have been kind of told all sorts of things about cholesterol over the decades. In the 1990s, we were told not to eat eggs because they had too much cholesterol in them. Then we were told it was okay to eat the whites, but you can't eat the yellows. We've gone through so many different informational glyphs over the years that it makes it really hard for us to determine what we should and shouldn't be eating. And when it comes to cholesterol itself, it's really important to remember that cholesterol is not bad. Our bodies literally make cholesterol. When we sleep at night, our liver is producing cholesterol, and for good reason. But we can't be scared of it, but we do need to understand it. One thing that we're told is if your cholesterol number is over 225, that you've got problems with your cholesterol levels, which is not necessarily true, because when you have that total cholesterol number, that's literally a breakdown of 3 other numbers, primarily your HDL, which is your high density lipoproteins, and your LDL, which is your low density lipoproteins. Your high density lipoproteins are called the good cholesterol. Your LDLs are called the bad cholesterol. And your liver makes both. And so what happens is the LDLs go in to the bloodstream, and they do deposit some things that are needed, but they can clog up the arteries and the veins. But if you've got enough HDL, good guys coming in, they will literally go in and suck and remove all of that bad cholesterol that can cause arterial plaque. So the whole point of cholesterol is not the overall number we're looking for. We're literally looking for the HDL versus the LDL. If you have a good number of HDL versus having a good number or a high number of LDL, you're in good shape. But if your LDL is way high and your HDL is way low, that means you're not going to have enough of that good cholesterol to go in and pull that out. So make sure we understand that cholesterol in itself is not a bad thing. It's just a matter of understanding the breakdown of it and what kind of ratios we need. I think Shiree last night was looking for the figure, and it was like a 3-to-1 ratio is what she was seeing. So, like for instance, let's say, just for ease of figuring, your total cholesterol was 100, and 66 of that was bad cholesterol, but 33 of that was good, that you're still at a good ratio. Now, obviously 100 is really low, so it might not be a good example, but I will give you this example. I've got a gal that I work with as an informer in Austin, Texas area. She's about 120, 130 pounds, and she had cholesterol levels over 200. And of course, a normal average doctor would say, you need to be on cholesterol medication. But her good cholesterol was so high in ratio to her bad cholesterol, she was actually in the good. She just happens to make a lot of cholesterol. But she's making the right portions of cholesterol. So understanding that difference is really important as we move forward with cholesterol. Okay. You can actually have a low cholesterol number overall and be not in a good situation also. All right, so when we look at LDL, the bad cholesterol, we need to remember a word called oxidization. Oxidization, what it does is when we're exposed to oxygen, things start to deteriorate and break down. If you look at this car at the bottom example, you'll see this old-timer car left out in the rain and the wind and all the elements, and you can see it's rusting. It's been exposed to oxygen over and over again, along with a lot of other elements, and therefore it's starting to corrode. This actually happens in our body through oxidization. And oxidization is not a bad thing, it's just something that needs to be controlled and monitored. But in simple terms, it is the corrosive effect oxygen has on our atoms and our molecules. And it works by removing the electrons, which can be extremely disruptive. An old car that rusts when it is left in the rain is a great example. Our bodies go through oxidization when we break down foods into energy. This is also known as metabolism. So oxidization is not bad, it's just there again, something for us to monitor. But you have to remember, when we have a lot of oxidization taking place, we create dangerous byproducts called free radicals. And these free radicals are basically cells that are not balanced in their electron and their neutron properties. And so what they do is they go around and they try and find other cells to steal their electric charges from them. Okay? And they can actually deteriorate the body and the other cells by doing so. These free radicals are electronically unstable molecules which snatch electrons, so they themselves can be more stable. But this electron grabbing process is called oxidization. And antioxidants neutralize free radicals. So how many of you heard of the word antioxidants before? Yeah. So antioxidants will actually quench all of these free radicals. They actually neutralize and help remove these free radicals. So we need to make sure we're getting in plenty of antioxidants, which we get a lot from our foods, by the way. One of the major antioxidants that we see that's helpful for the heart is something called bergamot fruit. And bergamot fruit has had some amazing cardiovascular health benefits to it, particularly when it comes to modulating cholesterol and preventing cholesterol oxidation. So bergamot, I want to bring out, is actually one of the key ingredients in this little capsule that you take at night. It's actually in that Cardio XLDL, which is in there at night. We're going to talk about this packet a little bit more tonight. But bergamot fruit is in there. So it helps with this oxidation process and the free radicals we naturally produce just by metabolism alone.
So what kind of fruit is it then?
Bergamot? Bergamot fruit is just a special type of fruit. We actually use it a lot for essential oils. It's got a beautiful smell to it. Usually a fruit also will pertain to the flower, and so it might be the actual flower that's on the bergamot, because we don't necessarily, when they say fruit, they also mean flower. So
So
that
it's not
flower.
like an apple or a banana?
No, it's not like something, yeah. Now, pomegranates, very high in antioxidants, right? Mangoes, mangosteen rather, is also very high in it. There's all sorts of different fruits and vegetables out there that are high in antioxidants. Most of the time they're rich and they're red and they're vibrant in color. They have a lot more antioxidants to them. And we get them through our regular fruits and vegetables too, our grapes, our bananas, our apples. But they just may not be as high densely, as densely nutritive in the antioxidant area as something that's more vibrant in colors.
Where does this fruit grow?
Which one?
Bergamot.
The bergamot, that's a great question, Sarah. I don't know where it actually grows at. But like I said, they're probably referring to the flower of this actually. So you don't actually eat it, but you make it into an oil type of property, and then you're able to put it into a supplement and use it that way. The other thing I want to bring out is the word L-arginine. Now, L-arginine, of course, is an amino acid. We get it primarily from plant-based proteins. It is the amino acid that is specifically known for your heart. What L-arginine does is it helps to produce something called nitric oxide. And nitric oxide actually helps to relax and open up the arterial walls and vessels that carry our blood, to relax them, to allow more oxygen and more flow of our blood to actually go through. So getting this essential amino acid called L-arginine is very important as well. It makes those arteries and veins also flexible and movable. Much like a hose, it should move fluidly, opposed to being all rickety and every time you bend it, it just kind of snaps. Another point is vitamin E. You probably heard that vitamin E is really good for the arterial system. And it is, because vitamin E is actually an antioxidant. And what it does is it really helps the flexibility of the arteries and veins as well. But L-arginine we're going to talk about in this Rejuvenate product at the end of class tonight, because this is something new that Nature's Sunshine just put out that I want to cover, which is excellent for the cardiovascular system as well. Page number 42. We're going to talk about fat. So, Sarah, when I say the word fat, what do you think of? First thing comes to your head.
That white fatty stuff.
Visceral.
Yeah. This stuff.
Yeah.
This stuff.
What are those called?
What about-
Cellulite, lean.
What about you, Susie? What do you think of when you hear the word fat? Pain? Okay.
I got my mind in the mud. I think of hamburgers like ground hamburger meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there it is, all that.
There it is, all that fat. Yeah, exactly. Just like the D-I-E-T word, we have kind of been inundated and indoctrinated with an unhealthy view of fat. Fat is really, really essential for our bodies for so many things. And I mean the good fat. I mean the fats we get from olive oil, from coconut oil, from avocados, from olives themselves, nuts, seeds. All of these good healthy fats are really good for us. But unfortunately, every time you go to the grocery store, you see low fat. You see skim. You see no fat. Everything we've got is promoted to us as we're trying to get rid of fat. Even like our yogurts. no fat, or low fat, or cottage cheeses, no fat. All of this is being promoted in that way because it's kind of messing with our heads, and we've got to be able to change that. Fat has also had a bad rap for causing cardiovascular disease, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. I've got a handout for week number 7 when we talk about sugars. But literally in the 1990s and 80s, I think it was also 80s and 90s, right in there, they were doing a study on cardiovascular health, and they were finding out that sugar was one of the #1 causes for cardiovascular issues. But the sugar industry at that time was very strong. The fat industry was not. And so what happened is the sugar industry had enough beef, so to speak, to mobilize fats in the center of the cardiovascular mix, and we got told that fat was bad for our hearts. Fat was bad for our cardiovascular system, when in fact it was sugar. And this has been covered up for a few decades, but now it's actually kind of finally coming out. We had a lot of people producing sugar, and a lot of people invested in their corn syrup and their high fructose corn syrup and their rice syrups and all these other things, right? They had a lot of money invested in that, and they didn't want to be the center focus for a cardiovascular finger being pointed at them saying, hey, guess what? You're causing cardiovascular issues. So we need to realize that some of this information we've been given over the last couple of decades is not correct. So we need to start removing that from our brain and realizing that fats are extremely important for so many things. They're important for our neurotransmitters. They're important for our joints. They're important for our hormones. They're important for our skin. They're important for almost every body process that takes place. They actually carry our hormones from one point to another point. If you don't have the transportation system, it's hard to get the hormones to where they need to go. Yeah.
Is there anything sugar's good for?
Processed sugar? No. No. Now, if you were to eat like a sugar cane, you actually get fiber in that, and you get a balance of nutrients, and you don't get all that sugar just hitting your system. So when you look at processed sugar, no. And sugar has to be.
Nutrient. It takes the nutrients away from the body.
Yep.
So
Yep.
your system, the raw
Leachism.
sugar in your system digests it better than just regular sugar.
Raw, yes, because it doesn't have the heat, but at the same time, it's still processed to such a degree that it's still, like Susie was just saying, is going to rob some nutrients of your body because it's been separated from those nutrients, and it just naturally wants to get back with those nutrients, and it'll just pull it out of your system. Good point, Susie, thank you. So when we talk about fats, we need to think about healthy fats that are vital to our cardiovascular health. These fats are called essential fatty acids. Essential meaning you have to eat them. You can't make them, you have to eat them, okay? These include omega-3s, omega-6s, and omega-9s. Our bodies don't make these on our own, so we need to ingest them in a balance. It's really easy for us to get lots of 6s. We get 6s from peanut oil and safflower oil and all sorts of different things in our nutritional plans. But what's challenging is getting the proper amount of omega-3s. And omega-3s will come from fish such as tuna and tilapia. We'll also get it in hemp seed hearts and some other oils. I'm going to show you guys a paper on it here in a moment of all the different sources where we can get more plant sources of essential fatty acids from the omega-3 category. But we need these in a perfect balance. If we get too many omega-6s, they can actually cause an inflammatory condition. Or if we get plenty of 6s, it causes an anti-inflammatory position. So if you've got arthritis, problems with your joints, and you get a lot of omega-3s in, it's going to help with that inflammation. But if you get a lot of 6s in and not enough 3s, it actually will accelerate that. So we need to have a balance. It's really easy to get the 6s in, but difficult to get the 3s, so we need to concentrate on that as we learn more about healthy fats to get into our system.
Oh, you see on the grapeseed oil.
On the grapeseed oil? Yeah.
I'm so allergic.
All right. So the other thing we need to understand is good fats break down bad fats. I know you guys are familiar with Pac-Man to some degree, but you literally need good fats to eat up bad fats. Good fats such as your avocados and your olives and your cold pressed oils will have enzymes in them that go in and break down your bad fats. The bad fats that stick on our thighs and on our back ends, the visceral fat, is just a storage tank. It's just hanging out there. It's not going to be mobilized unless you exercise and eat healthy fats. Because healthy fats literally go in like a Pac-Man and eat up those bad fats. So I know it sounds a little different in our heads. I got to eat fat to get rid of fat. But it's like water. If you've got water retention going on, you've got to drink water to get rid of water.
That is a hard thing to get in here.
It is. It is, but it's true. It's the same kind of idea. People are like, oh, I don't want to drink any more water because I'm all bloated with water. I've got edema going on. When in fact, you literally need to drink more water because it has to do with the salt and the potassium, but that's a whole other class. But anyway, but point being is, same thing. You need good fats to break down bad fats because good fats will mobilize those bad fats out as long as you eat enough of them and you eat them in the right context. All right, make sure I covered everything on that. I do know, like for instance, my mom way back when she was doing herbs on a regular basis, she had a knee injury from when she was a child. She got hit by a car. And every time she would tell me, oh, I ran out of my flaxseed, my joints or my knees hurting me, and I'd send her some more flaxseed, and then she wouldn't complain about it anymore. But just that one nutrient alone, because I had a hard time getting her to eat right, but at least she would take some of the herbs, you know, to help kind of compensate. But she noticed every time she took the flaxseed oil that she could move her knee better. Things just were, think about fats kind of in that oil structure. I mean, they kind of like, they grease the wheel, so to speak, right? So we think about that in your joint, they kind of grease that wheel moving back and forth. And so that's one of the reasons why we need those good fats.
Are pecans on here as a good source?
Yeah, pecans are an excellent source of healthy fats, but we of course are going to use them as protein. But the great thing about us using nuts in our program is that nuts have a wonderful side effect called healthy fats. So that's a good thing. So we're using them as a protein. You count them as a protein in your nutritional plan with IN.Form, but you do get the side benefit of the healthy fats with them. A healthy fat, a good kind of fat.
What are these?
Those look like chia seeds to me, or maybe flax seeds. Yeah, those look like flax seeds.
What?
Yeah, flax seeds, and then walnuts, and then we got,
And there's something in the background, I think, isn't that sunflowers?
could
No.
be.
No, those little,
Where's the oatmeal?
We got avocado, back
I
over
think
here.
that's a seed.
Yeah, it looks like a seed of some sort. Who knows? But we do want to remember that with our protein, that we're getting the benefit of that. Now, does anybody remember how many healthy fats we're supposed to eat per day? 5! 5 healthy fats per day. And as I told you guys in the beginning of this program, if you go over 5 healthy fats in a day, I will be the last person to complain, because we literally are deficient in good healthy fats in our nutritional plans. I always like to bring this up as well. When I was working downtown, and I would have people come in and they would say, okay, you know what, just tell me what my basics are. What do I need on a daily basis? I would tell people they needed 3 particular supplements. One of them, they needed a really good, healthy multivitamin and mineral that digested well, broke down well, and actually gave them what they needed. Not no one-a-days, because you can't get everything you need in a one-a-day. Unless it's a horse pill. Second of all was enzymes, which we talked about last week. I think everybody needs enzymes to help them break down their foods properly. I don't think any of us really don't need any unless we're a child who's been eating fresh fruits and vegetables pretty much every day of their life. The third thing is essential fatty acids. So of my top 3 things that I think everybody should take no matter where they're at in their health stance, essential fatty acids are one of them. You definitely really need to get those in because they are hard to get in proper balances. All right, brain function, skin health, membrane integrity, needed for growth, development, all of these things are listed in your book, but all of these things you can tell are really wonderful for helping our body as a whole, so we don't want to be fat freaked out. All right, let me see where I'm at here real quick. So I'm gonna give you guys this handout real quick. This is some healthy fats that you can kind of look at as you're looking to make sure you're getting in the proper balances as of threes and getting in those healthy fats. You can see on the left-hand side, we're talking about oils. All of these different oils are monosaturated fats. I would put a cross through peanut oil. I'm not a big fan of peanut oil, and I took that peanut butter home last night. But anyway, reason being is peanut oil itself is very high in omega-6s, and we get a lot of that. So that's why I like to use that Earth Balance peanut butter that I had up here for the last couple of weeks. It's made with coconut oil, and coconut oil is a better source of your omegas than peanut oil is. You've got your nuts here in the next column. Of course, there again, we're using it as protein, but just gives you an idea of what kind of fats we can get from these different types of nuts. Seeds, you've got those as well. You've got butters, like almond butter, cashew butter, tahini, sesame butter, sunflower seed, and of course other sources of healthy fats are going to be our avocados and our black olives and our green olives. Now the omega-3s, which is at the bottom of this page, gives us an idea of where we can get plant-based omega-3s. One of the main sources is from fish, from salmon and tuna. Those type of fish particularly have high omega-3s. But if we're looking for some plant-based options, flaxseed oil, walnut oil, sesame oil, almond oil, and hemp seed oil, excellent. Nuts and seeds, you can see all them also listed on the right-hand side. I would like for you to add, you see they got peanuts kind of pushed down there a little bit. There again, keep it as a question mark. I'd rather you get these other seeds in, nuts in if you can. Oh, Brazil nuts need to be on here. Brazil nuts are not on here. That is an excellent source of your omegas. In fact, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, Brazil nuts are probably the best nut you could possibly eat for the magnesium, for the selenium, which by the way is an antioxidant, selenium is, and then of course just the omegas. Macadamia, yeah.
It's like them.
Yeah, macadamias are up at the top. They're not going to be as high in omega-3s as these ones on the bottom right hand. The other thing I want you to add underneath the omega-3 under nuts and seeds is the hemp seed hearts. Hemp seed hearts, very high in a proper balance of omega-3s and omega-6s, and very high in protein. I love adding these to my morning smoothies because not only, huh? I do a tablespoon personally of my organic hemp seed hearts, and you get the fats, you get more protein, and there again, plant-based. So we're getting more of a variety than just relying on meat, especially when it comes to our amino acids. There we go.
But is it the omega-3 that they have seed hearts?
Yes, there is a proper balance of, like, you get so much omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, and hemp seed hearts were designed from our creator to have that proper balance. So it does have some 6, but the 3 is balanced with that in perfect ratio to our body. So yes, you want to put that underneath the omega-3 section because that's a great place to get that.
So is
Yes.
the hemp seed oil as good as eating just the hemp seed hearts in?
Both of them would be great. If you're needing to use an oil, use the oil. If you're wanting to add to smoothies, you can just do the hemp seed hearts. It's just kind of up to you. But hemp as a whole is one of the most nutritious plants that are out there. In fact, I'm going to be making a smoothie here not too long with hemp seed, not hemp seed, but hemp milk. Very high in protein and your omegas also.
What do you think of the krill oil versus fish oil?
Krill oil in of itself is a higher density of omega-3s. When it's harvested properly from our proper areas, such as in Alaska, where we haven't had a lot of oil spills and been touched with a lot of toxicity that we've naturally put into the environment, krill oil is excellent. In fact, krill oil will be more expensive than your regular omega, but it does have a higher impact of omegas in your system. If I've got somebody recovering from a heart attack, or somebody with a stroke history, or somebody that's really needing to balance some hormones, I may shoot for the krill oil just to get that higher impact of omegas. But it is a really good balance.
And I just learned that you can't always buy it because of the season.
Yes. Yes, because the krill, kind of like the salmon, move around. You can't always just get them, and of course, I don't think there's maybe as many of them running around possibly as well. Because the best, from what I've heard, is from Alaska. So, all right. So you got some healthy oil options. The other thing I want to bring up real quickly is that oils also go rancid when you heat them. So we need to be really careful with overheating any of our oils that we're using. If you're going to fry something, your best bet is either frying grapeseed oil or avocado oil because they have a higher flash point, which means that they can withhold heat longer than your olive oil or your coconut oil or anything along that. In fact, I wouldn't fry anything in coconut oil. If I use coconut oil, I use it in baking. I don't use it for frying because heat exposed to these oils makes them go rancid. It actually depletes them of nutrients and they can actually create more free radicals in that particular oil. This is one of the reasons why when we go out to some of the places we go out to eat and they use these oils and they use them over and over and over again at high temperature levels, we're actually getting oils that are actually toxic instead of healthy, even if they're using a healthy source because of the heat that they're exposed to. So grapeseed oil and olive oil are your best things to do anything at a high heat on. If you're gonna fry something, you're gonna do a high heat. Those are the two best ones to do. When you're purchasing oils, the best thing to do is to get cold pressed because cold pressed means they're not using heat. When you use heat on the oils, you kill the enzymes and you also, there again, kill some of the nutrient value. So cold pressed is always best. Virgin olive oil is also a better bet because when they talk about virgin, it means the first press. Sometimes what they'll do is they'll take the same olives and they'll press them the first time, but then they'll go back and press them again to get more oil out of them. That first press is going to have the most nutrients in it. It's going to be the most nutrient dense. And Shiree looked this up last night for us also while we were doing class. She was talking about the laws in like the other countries in the UN versus us in our United States. And she was saying when you get, because somebody asked, well, what's the difference between extra virgin olive oil and virgin olive oil? And I'm like, doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know why that would be. But she looked it up and she said there's actually laws in Europe that you cannot label it as extra virgin olive oil if it doesn't go through a certain process. Where in the United States, it's really loose. You can get by with saying something's extra virgin, but yet it's really not any different than just virgin olive oil. And so, of course, next week we're going to be talking about labels, and we're going to talk about some of this, some of the issues we have with labeling and how the FDA regulates that and doesn't regulate. Anyway, all of those things. So that'll be explored more next week. But just something to kind of remember. If you're going to buy an extra virgin olive oil and it's from Italy, you're doing good. But if you're going to buy an extra virgin olive oil from somewhere in the United States, especially from a mass producer, you're probably not getting anything different than you would. You're probably just paying more just to pay more. The third thing you want to remember with oils is do not purchase them in plastic. Plastic and oils do not get along well when it comes to toxicity. Oils that are stored in plastic literally leach the toxins from the plastic container. So when you purchase your oil in a plastic container, you're not just getting the oil, but you're getting toxins from that plastic container as well. And who knows how long it's been sitting in there? Who knows if it got heated in a truck going from point A to point B to point C? Who knows what it's been exposed to? We're going to talk about plastics more when we talk about the glandular system and hormones here in a few more weeks. But just to make sure I bring that out right now, always, always purchase your your oils in glass. Do not purchase them in plastics if at all possible. I know it's going to cost a little bit more, but you're also not going to be getting the residue, that toxicity that we're working really hard to get rid of, not induce into us. So, all right, any questions on oils before we move on, guys? All right? So, page number 43, we're talking about trans fats. Who's heard of trans fats? Who's heard of hydrogenated fats? Hydrogenated fats, trans fats, technically pretty much the same thing. A hydrogenated fat is when they take the fat and they remove a molecule which allows it to be solid at room temperature. Crisco would be probably your number one example of this. If Crisco was not hydrogenated, it would not be solid at room temperature. And when they make that change to the way that the Creator made this oil, our body doesn't know what to do with it. It becomes a toxin in our system. We were created to eat and consume things in their whole form. But when we've gone in and changed the molecular structure of a thing, just so we can have more creaminess in our baked goods, or we can have more fluidity in, some kind of a mix that we're doing, or we can keep something at room temperature that probably really should be kept in the refrigerator, right? Then what's happening is our body doesn't recognize that nutrient because it's not in its wholesome form. So therefore, we really want to make sure we're staying away from trans fats and hydrogenated oils because of that simple fact. Trans fats are opposite of your fatty acids. They are dangerous, bad fats that attract those free radicals. Remember the free radicals we were talking about earlier? They attract those and attach to them. And what they do is they oxidize your LDL particles, which is your bad cholesterol, in your bloodstream. This oxidized LDL cholesterol, we're still on page 43. The oxidized LDL cholesterol then begins the formation of arterial plaque. So hydrogenated oil literally sticks in your arteries and your veins and hangs out there with the LDL and the oxidization process because our body doesn't know what to do with it. And of course, what this does is it narrows our blood flow to our brain, to our heart, to our liver, to our kidneys. And in doing so, it decreases the oxygen to the heart. So hydrogenated oils are something we really want to stay away from. Trans fats where we need to put our focus. So let's make sure that you look for the words partially hydrogenated or trans fats on all your labels of anything that you purchase. And I will tell you real quick, we'll learn more about this next week, but I want to make sure it's covered because this is part of our homework this week, is to look for trans fats and hydrogenated fats on any products we may be purchasing. According to the FDA and the labeling rules, if a product has a negligible amount of trans fats per serving, a manufacturer can stamp on the front of that product 0 trans fats per serving. If you see 0 trans fats per serving, most likely you want to put that product back on the shelf because they're using it in a marketing and ploy to get you to buy something and think you're not getting trans fats. Cookies are a great example of this. So a lot of cookies have trans fats in them. So 0 grams of trans fats per serving, which means it's negligible. It's not countable by the FDA. But that serving size is 2 cookies. Now I don't know about you, but if I go buy a bag of Oreos, I'm not just probably going to eat 2 cookies. I'm probably going to eat 4 or 6 or 8, or depending on what's going on. Who knows how much I'll eat? So now your negligible amount of trans fats has gone to a very, very significant amount of trans fats, but has gotten past you because of the labeling. So be really careful with that. When you are purchasing items and you're seeing that, oh look, it has no trans fats. Turn it over, look at the label, and be sure that it doesn't really have any trans fats. Below that on page 43, we've got a few anti-inflammatory remarks. Of course, as we're talking about essential fatty acids, we want to also talk about the inflammatory, anti-inflammatory process that goes along with them. Eating plenty of fruits, vegetables, getting a good source of omega-3s, eating lean protein sources such as chicken and beef, from grass-fed cattle or In.Form pea, soy, or whey protein shakes, and using spices such as ginger, cinnamon, turmeric, curry. All of these things will help add an anti-inflammatory effect on the body, thus helping with joints, helping with all inflammation. You know, there's a couple of really intelligent natural health gurus out there that really believe that there's only two diseases. One of them is mucus, and the other one is inflammation. When you think about it, all diseases start with one or the other or both. Inflammation and mucus. Now we have a natural amount of mucus, but when we start to produce a lot of mucus, we're doing that for a reason. And then inflammation sets in when our tissues are irritated. And that is the process that happens before disease. So the most that we can work on getting our omega-3s in and using some of these other ideas, such as getting the curry and the cinnamon in, using them readily in our cooking, is going to help with that anti-inflammatory process. When Shiree and I went to, I guess I gave that to you already. When Shiree and I went to the Nature Sunshine Convention 3 weeks ago, we were also learning about the curcumin that Nature Sunshine was doing. Now, curcumin is the active ingredient in turmeric. You may have heard about how anti-inflammatory turmeric and curcumin is. But the thing is when you process that and you make that into a capsule, it's really important that you do it in a proper balance with that constituent of curcumin. And one of the ways that you can get that curcumin have a stronger effect is by adding black pepper. And so that's why if you've ever looked at your, with the Nature Sunshine products and looked at curcumin, you'll see curcumin BP. BP stands for black pepper. But that black pepper will actually accelerate the anti-inflammatory processes that curcumin in of itself has. And so they've been able to get that figured out. I think they're actually patenting that product as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I like to bring that up because a lot of people are trying curcumin these days for anti-inflammatory processes. And there again, buying the best one that can get you the most result is going to get you a lot further if you can do that. All right. So I told you we'd touch on this again. Eating poorly does not have instant side effects. If you went out and you ate a McDonald's hamburger and you instantly got a rash and broke out, you probably wouldn't do it again. If you went out and had a big piece of chocolate cake and you looked in the mirror and you were this much bigger, you probably wouldn't eat it, right? But understanding that our foods are set up to poison us on a slow release basis, which allows us to think, hey, well, I'm doing all right, I'm healthy, I'm not, I'm moving around, I'm grooving, I'm eating like this, must be okay for me. I must be able to handle it. But that's a deception we're put underneath when it comes to these foods. And we've got to really be careful. Hydrogenated oils is one of them. So realizing that eating poorly does not have instant side effects is very important. It will catch up with you sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. And if you can work on it now, then you never know. It's good to know what you never know you could have had. Is a good way to put that. All right. Page number 44 talks about our cardio kit. And of course the cardio kit, we've got these little packages inside this little box here that we take every single night. And we take them before we go to bed for a reason. So this is the little packet that we take. Now I explained to you the Cardio XLDL already a little bit. It has that bergamot fruit in it, that major antioxidant that works wonderful for the cardiovascular system. These are the little capsules. And then the little green veggie tabs are your multivitamin. And of course they're coated in chlorophyll. So you get some little extra benefit of chlorophyll. And then the two yellow, squishy, are your super omegas. These are your omega-3s from a fish source in here. And that's what we're taking at night. Now, I'll tell you why here in a moment, but one of the things that I've seen happen the most with this cardio packet is people are getting more circulation to their arterial cardiovascular system, which means all these little blood vessels in our fingers and in our toes, all these little areas. A lot of times we think about our cardiovascular system, we think of the heart, we think of the arteries, we think of the veins, but we don't think about all these little tiny blood vessels that are carrying oxygen and nutrients to all of our tissues. This Cardio XLDL formula is actually a patent pending formula that gets to that arterial cardiovascular system. I've had people with cold hands and cold feet. Notice when they take this, it goes away. I've had people who've noticed they've got issues with neuropathy. When they take this, it goes away. I myself, before I started IN.Form, had tingly feet in the morning. It was almost like pins and needles on the bottom of my feet. I kind of tiptoed to the bathroom when I got out of bed. And by the time I walked back to the bedroom to do whatever I needed to do, it was pretty much gone. But it was kind of uncomfortable there for a few minutes. And I noticed one of the first things that went away for me was that sensation by taking the cardio pack at night before bed. I've had more people notice when they get off of this than probably any of the other single products in the IN.Form kit. A lot of people feel achy in the morning, can't move as well, but they notice when they've been off of it for a month or longer. I myself am one of them. Every summer for the last 2 summers, I've gone for a month or longer without my cardio kit. I'm not teaching classes. I'm probably not as strict with myself as I am when I'm teaching classes. And I would go off of them. And I would literally notice after about a month that I would wake up achier. I just wouldn't feel as flexible in the morning. My shoulders would hurt. Things would hurt that didn't hurt before. And so from personal experience, I know that it helps a lot. Now the reason we're taking this at night is because if you remember, I said that the liver produces cholesterol at night while you're sleeping. This packet helps to modulate that cholesterol and helps to balance it out. So that's why we need to take this either at dinner time or before we go to bed. If this is too many supplements to take before you go to bed, at least take the Cardio XLDL at night and then filter the rest throughout the day. But it's very important to get those capsules at night because that's when your body is going to access and use this supplement to the highest degree. You'll get the most benefit out of it if you take it at night while you sleep because it will help with that modulation of the cholesterol that's being produced, help you with producing more good cholesterol opposed to bad cholesterol, and of course your protein shakes have phytosterols in them, which are also really helpful, which is plant cholesterol, by the way. That's what phytosterols are. And then those also help to block your own cholesterol from absorbing. But this particularly at night is very, very helpful. The other thing that's in here, of course, is your essential fatty acids. From the American Heart Association, 1,000 milligrams a day of fish oil concentrate reduce the risk of sudden death from heart-related diseases by 45%. Just one of these capsules per day, according to the American Heart Association, reduce your risk from a cardiovascular issue by 45%. We're getting 2,000 milligrams in this when we take this at night. So we're getting double the dose that the American Heart Association talked about. That's from my own special notes. That's not in your book.
So is this enough for a one-day vitamin regimen?
Yes, this is all you need.
Okay, so should we not take our
Honestly, you don't need to because you're getting everything you need in here and your protein shakes because your protein shakes have 17 vitamin and minerals in them also. So between this and between that, you're getting everything you need for vitamins and minerals, especially if you're working on your IN.Form nutritional plan. Now, if you're going out and you're eating McDonald's and you're eating highly processed foods, you may need to take that extra vitamin.
Well, not me.
Not me. But you know, if you're following a good nutritional plan, this is plenty. You don't need to overboard it.
Now, did I understand it right then? You said 1,000 milligrams daily of fish oil, and that research would help keep a heart attack away? Really?
1,000 milligrams a day of a fish oil concentrate, which is just one of these, reduce the risk of sudden death from heart-related causes by 45%. It's amazing, isn't it?
Really?
Now, one little pill could do that.
Thin the blood?
Hmm?
Does it thin the blood?
I don't think it doesn't thin the blood so much because that would be vitamin K. It's just because of what it's giving you for that cardiovascular system with the cholesterol, with the hormones, with everything that's related. That's what you're getting. Like I said, it's vital for all processes in the body. It's just we don't get enough of it because we don't really eat enough fat. And then when we do eat the fat, we don't necessarily eat the right kind of fat. All right. Let's see here. So I have one more thing I really want to talk about tonight, and this is Rejuvenate. And I'm giving you guys a sample of the Rejuvenate tonight so you can take it home and try it. Rejuvenate is a product that Nature Sunshine has been working on for a little over a year, and it is a patented formula. And remember we were talking about nitric oxide? That's what Rejuvenate does. Literally in one of these little sticks of Rejuvenate, you get 4 beets and like half a watermelon is all in this little stick as far as a nutrient value. Red beets are known to help provide a natural form of nitric oxide into our system. Nitric oxide, there again, opens up and relaxes the blood vessels so that way we get more blood flow, more oxygen, more nutrients, all the things that our body needs. This particular product not only helps to increase the cardiovascular system with oxygen, but in turn what it does, it helps with memory, it helps with focus, it helps with energy. And I don't mean energy as in a caffeine energy, I mean energy as in you're used to doing this much work, but now you feel like you can do this much work because you just have the oxygen and the nutrient capacity to do so. I've been doing it for about 3 weeks, and I have had a couple of instances where I've had some head rushes, maybe felt even a little bit dizzy, all because what's happening is we're opening up oxygen to my brain. And it's amazing to have that extra little boost of energy. I've been able to do a lot more just taking it. But the Rejuvenate itself is very good for decreasing body fat as well, helping with improved blood flow to vital organs, helping with gut and health-related immune issues as well. So all that information is on the Rejuvenate. My big question at convention was, do I combine it with the cardio, XLDL, and the cardio kit? And the answer was yes, because we're getting 2 different things. The L-arginine, that nitric oxide that's working with this Rejuvenate product, really helps to increase the health of the cardiovascular system at a different level. So anyways, like I said, you guys can have a sample of this tonight, and you can take it home and try it and see what you think. If you think you may be sensitive to it, like you're sensitive to a lot of things, just start off with just half a package, shake it up in some water and drink it. I personally put one in my morning smoothie every morning. I just open up a packet, put it in with my cherries and my protein and my coconut water and oil, or not oil, but coconut water and milk. And I really like the taste. It's got a nice pomegranate kind of citrusy taste to it, and it's really yummy. So just something else to help increase the effectiveness of our cardiovascular system. And in fact, tomorrow night, if anyone's interested, I've got some flyers back there. I am actually teaching a class. It's a free class tomorrow night on the Purified 2.0 program, which includes the Rejuvenate product as well as including the Ultra Biome DTX, which we looked at week 3, that fiber mix that we looked at. And I'm actually doing a special class tomorrow night, so if anybody's interested in that, please let me know, so that way I don't schedule too many people to come tomorrow night, because I've actually got quite a few people coming, which I'm really excited about. But I probably will be having more of these classes if you're not able to make tomorrow nights. If you're interested, let me know. I'll put you on my list for another class that I may be doing here in the near future.
What time?
6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
And what did you say that packet had in it equal to 4 beets and something? 4 beets?
4 beets and half a watermelon. In my head, I'm going, how good would that be for water retention? That's my thought process.
There's my water.
Right? Well, you think so. But actually, you can, when you do this, you can count this as part of your water. So if you take it and you just shake it up with water, you can still count your water as part of your minimum water per day. All right, so page number 46, let's go to our homework real quickly. We're going to read module number 5, which is the module we just finished. We're going to make sure we're including plenty of omega-3s in our nutritional plan. We're going to look for trans fats and hydrogenated fats on our labels. And then, of course, we're also going to explore using some of the anti-inflammatory spices that we talked about to increase the anti-inflammatory response in our daily nutritional plans. And, of course, we're going to do a SMART goal for the week. Make sure it's specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, and time-bound. And hopefully it can center around something that we learned tonight, with learning more about fats, with learning more about the cardiovascular system, and how it's really important to get the plant-based proteins in to help our gut health equal our heart health. So with that being said, just want to mention real quickly, next week we are talking about labels We're gonna work on cleaning out our pantry, and we're gonna make sure that we are in full scope awareness of how to purchase foods at the grocery store, and that we make the best choices for ourselves and our family. Tonight we're gonna make a strawberry love smoothie. We're gonna use some cashews that have been soaking overnight. It's gonna create a really nice creamy smoothie. It's amazing how much it does do that. I think everybody last night was a little impressed by how it does that. I'll tell you guys how I do that. Of course, I will give you in your emails the recipe for what we're doing tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here for tonight. Have a healthy, informed week.